When I see teenagers walking around Montreal, I can't help but cringe. When I see them, I automatically project my past insecurities. I have to stop my brain from regressing back to being a teenager and having all of those uncomfy, angsty feelings. When you look up teenage angst in the dictionary or on Google, what pops up is teenage Abby Stonehouse. Oh, did I know how to be a teenager? I hated being a teenager. I was confused about my future, angry with my parents, and had loads of insecurities. People look back at their teenage years and where they were with such nostalgia. I kind of don't. When I look back at what I was like in high school, man, I would like an outsider's perspective on it. There were so many years of my teenage years that I blocked out. I think I was nice. I think I was funny. I know I was somewhat mature and responsible. I don't think I was overly into drawing attention to myself, which is ironic. In fact, there were some parts of my teenage years that I truly wanted to blend into the wall. I had a small group of friends, and I would sometimes transplant myself into other friend groups from time to time. I was not a popular person by any extent. At the time, I wanted to be a popular person, but I'd never really meshed well with any of them. They all seemed a bit boring to me, to be honest. And if you're listening to this and you're getting offended by that statement, I'm not talking about you. When I remember my teenage years, I remember what I prioritized the most, and that was socializing with friends and drinking beer. Being a teenager in Howick was boring. At least it was for me. So we curated fun in the form of going to friends' houses, preferably ones that had lax parental supervision. There was no hanging out in malls or cafes or restaurants with friends because we didn't have those. So on a typical Friday night, I was always driven to a friend's place. We would convince someone's older brother or weird uncle to buy us booze or give us weed, and we would sit around consuming a substance, which I suppose isn't much different from what we do now. But in the early 2000s, there was no smartphones, no texting, no social media, so coordinating these events happened between classes, which, looking back, was a lot of work, to be honest. At these hangouts, we would laugh, talk about boys, our future aspirations in life. Some of these chats were so deep, depressing, optimistic, and weird. There was something special about these chats that I remember so fondly. Those moments sitting around a kitchen table made such an impact in my life. I love listening to people and having a laugh. Surprise, surprise. There were a lot of moments in my adolescence that made an impact, for sure, and made me into who I am today. I had even more of these moments in my 20s, but I suppose that's the case for everyone. Welcome to House of Stone, the podcast where everyone has a story and we get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Today we have David Hernon. Hello,
Thank
David.
you for having me, Abby. It's so
Oh
nice
my
to
gosh,
be here.
I'm so happy to have you. I have a little bit of an intro for you. David is a comedian that is based out of New York City. Ooh, fancy. He was a staple for years in the Montreal scene before he abandoned us a couple years ago. Truly abandoned. I'm still heartbroken. He is back this week for some shows, and I'm so happy to have you on this episode.
Thank you.
Before we get into it, I always ask the guests to say their handles on social media so like listeners can find them if you want them to find you.
Yeah, I've been in a handle transition period, I'll be honest. I should have prepared my handles for this.
Why is there a transition?
Because there's this other David Hernon from North Carolina.
Okay, other David Hernon.
Yeah.
Get it together. Okay, yes.
He has all the handles. He has all the emails. I'm so pissed off.
So you're like David Hernon 1 or something?
Yeah, for a while I was. I've been messaging him being like, I'll give you $100 if I can have your handle. He's like 16. Like, that would go so far for him. Like, please, I just want this.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
I
would go
might be
so far.
lowballing him. He just never responds to me, so I get very annoyed at him.
That's so... Does he see the message?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm getting left on scene all day.
Wow.
He thinks it's weird. I'm like some older guy with the same name that's just bothering him. Like, he doesn't like that. So, but on Twitter, I'm Live Free or Davey, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, not super proud. Again, I'm just whatever. And then Instagram is David is Hernon.
Okay.
And again, I want to change all
I mean,
of that.
those are good ones.
I went to like a social media break in like
Okay.
May. I like stopped posting. I was like, I just want to focus on getting good at comedy, better, just being creative and not being online.
Yeah.
So I was like so addicted to it.
It's a problem. I mean, I've talked about it in past episodes. It's a legit, I have such a problem, especially part of my work has to do with social media and like promo. And it's just, and I have to with my therapist, because I'm in therapy, obviously. He was like, just make sure that when you're on it, you're intentionally on it. So like sometimes I'm like opening the app, I'm like, wait, that wasn't intentional. Let's have a thought, be like, okay, I'm gonna do this for like 5 minutes or like 2 minutes or whatever. So good for you. Like, how has the break been?
Well, I'm back on it, so it's not
as of like what, this week that you're
No,
back?
I mean, okay, I was having a break from posting and being like, I have to be a content farm or whatever. Like, I hate that idea.
Yeah.
But I was always on like anonymous social media. So I'd just be on like Twitter, just not looking at comedians, just looking at Twitter writ large. And then I got onto TikTok, and that was a huge mistake because I'm just watching recipes and like 16-year-olds dancing and like the war in Ukraine in like 30-second videos. And
God,
it's not helpful for my sleep at all.
No, TikTok is bad. It's bad. You can spend so much time on there and not realize it, and you're just like, what am I? And I've seen other people on it, and I think I'm a similar way where they like literally a video would go up and they like 0.02 seconds, and then they're going to the. I'm like, how do you know that's not what you want to watch? Like it's just like one next. It's,
well, that's it, and then your brain is in this weird. It's like being hypnotized.
Yeah,
you're not absorbing anything. You're in this weird like passive trance. I hate that.
Yeah,
I put some videos online, and these kids just made fun of me too. So I was like, okay, maybe
no, they made fun of you.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And the videos did fine. And so I was making these dumb comedy skits for a while. But in one, I had this eye infection. So I had this like massive eye sty on my eye. And I was like trying to hide it with the editing and stuff. And I upload it. And like 30 seconds later, some kid just comments, my dude's got one hell of a sty. I was like, I found it immediately.
That's the mistake, dude. If you got like weird stuff going on like that,
you have to address it.
Yeah.
No,
there's people that get followers just because of I have a sty this week, and people follow the life of this sty.
That's what I should have been doing.
And people like weirdos. Like weirdos are back online, dude. If you got something weird about your body going on, TikTok is the place for you.
Oh yeah.
There's like these people. Like there's this one guy. He's like a model, and like he has like Ninja Turtle toes. Where like it's like
ninja.
I don't know what that means.
Webbed? Like what's it? Is it like?
Okay, so it's like.
Can you look it up? Oh, we need to put the background. But can you show us Ninja Turtle toes?
Oh yeah, actually, let me. I didn't put up. Yeah. Anyways,
if
background for.
I like that you can pull stuff up though. That is my favorite part.
Oh yeah.
Show me Ninja Turtle toes. Let's look at some deformities real quick.
Why not? Why not?
This might take me a bit.
That's fine. Now you have something to do. Although you're already doing so much. No, like you definitely it's a like so are you avoiding TikTok now? Or
no, well,
you're back on it?
I'm trying to be intentional, like you said, about it. And the mindless scrolling's a killer. I just have to be comfortable going to sleep. And the problem for me is like lying in bed, my mind's just going.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, let me just pull up some social media. And then I don't like to look at Instagram in that moment because it's like, how do I compare to everybody I know, which sucks.
Oh, I can relate
you can't
so
look at that.
hard.
So I look at like the anonymous ones. I'm on like TikTok and like Reddit just reading bullshit from other people. And
yeah, it's okay.
It's also useless. It hasn't helped me one iota. So I don't know why I do it.
So you took a break-ish.
Yeah.
Did you feel better?
I felt like I wasn't trying to. Okay, for a while I was trying to post like every day.
Yeah.
Got to come up with a new skit every week and release it. And I was doing so much other stuff in my life, like
Finally,
music as well.
I found you,
that on the
Sonic.
side. I had this day job, and then, like I was just, especially in New York, I was really like, I want to get in the scene here. I have to be going out every night.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do like 4 or 5 like open mics a night when I first moved there.
Oh wow.
So then there's no time. So I was waking up at 6 a.m., putting a green screen up, like trying to do stupid shit in front of that.
Wow, that's
doing
commitment.
my job,
Holy
doing mics,
crap.
coming home, like editing, and then
Yeah.
sitting in bed and trying to scroll. It was too much.
Yeah.
It was just doing too much.
It's so much. I find like as like comedians or like people in the art scene who have day jobs, like it's so easy to burn yourself out, even though I don't like this.
So
I am upset. I mean,
I don't know the Ninja Turtles, but I mean, I know of them, but I never checked their feed out.
So this TikToker just puts content of his feet. He should be charging money for his feet content, though.
I think he
does.
Possibly does it, but like I can't. For some reason, I can't pick up the view. Also, I played a TikTok by accident during the conversation just before, so I don't know if that interrupted, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Like it played, like
That's just in the audio.
Because I was trying to get this video, but like it took me to TikTok anyways. This person, if you
I mean, I don't think there's. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
It's in God's hands.
Anyways, this person just basically has like two big toes facing the opposite directions, or I guess like they're facing each other, and it looks like a Ninja Turtle toe.
Okay.
And I love that because that's just like that's.
So was this like an immediate follow for you with this account?
Did not follow it. No, I don't go on TikTok like that.
Okay.
like I've noticed like you were saying like how bad it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it really does feel like it's like fighting for my attention.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like it feels like it's looking for a reason for me to stay on, as opposed to like the stuff I like I'm not voluntarily on there for some reason, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's gross.
I'm getting too old to just be having mindless hours.
Yes.
It's like, fuck, I hate being older now. I'm not like old. Like I'm still young, but I'm not.
You just turned 30.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're not old.
It's been a bummer. Yeah.
It's been a bummer. You hate the idea of not being in your 20s.
Well, I think also, like I was saying before the podcast, I have one friend group, they're all older than me.
Yes.
So that's cool. Cause I'm like, everyone was already married. They were already like, living these adult lives, but they still like party all the time and they still go to shows. So I'm like, okay, cool. Getting old rules. This is fine. But then the other friend group that I'm in, they're all like 22 to 28 and I'm the old guy.
Okay.
And I hate that because they all just, the way that they talk about that. I remember living like that and I can't do it anymore.
I mean, my best friend is younger. Like Michelle Dominic.
Yeah.
Been a guest twice on this. She is younger, but she's very mature. Like when I'm around, like, I mean, with the exception of like a few, when I'm
gestures.
Well, you're younger. Like I was gonna say 22, and you're like basically you're 22.
I'm 23.
23.
I'm 23.
I mean, you're very mature. There's exceptions, but like I said, like when I see younger people, I kind of cringe because I like my.
Yeah.
I'm like I know what that life is. This goes back to sort of the theme, and I want to get into your idea for your project.
Yeah.
Hopefully that comes into reality eventually. Where like when I see these young people and I kind of like regress. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I remember those feelings of being confused in your 20s and figuring things out, and like even more confused when you're a teenager and like, I don't know, like just feeling all the angsty feelings. And I really love being in my 30s. I feel like I'm finally growing into my personality.
Yeah. For
sure. So anyways.
Feeling a lot more confident in who you are is a huge thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The 20s are like, the 20s are so that you can fuck your life up 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, and solve that and like get over that. Yeah.
You can lose everything and then you bounce back.
Yeah.
If you do that in your 30s, it's less cute.
It's less cute.
You
but
can
you
still
can
do
still
it. Yeah,
you
still
could
do it.
definitely still do it. It's maybe a little less cute, but you could definitely, I think you can try different things, but it's more, I feel like you do it with less chaos.
I think okay, if you need a change in your life, you should do it. Doesn't matter the age. If you're 60 and need a fresh start, you screwed some things up, do it.
Yeah.
But the 20s are made for that.
Yeah.
That's like the prime years where nothing
and do it with
matters.
some mania, you know?
Yeah,
like,
be a little wild about it. Be a little toxic, you know? Just a little. There's time. It's okay, you know? Nobody laments a 24-year-old like starting over completely in like a new town or whatever.
Yeah.
If you do that at like 40, like abandon your family or some horrific thing if you have one.
Yeah, it's definitely less cute. Like
what
you said.
There's just like you have a lot more responsibilities, which suck. Responsibilities are awful. But then they're also like really, you have responsibilities because you have things that are rewarding and valuable in like deeper ways.
Well, hopefully. Yes.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? But
Yeah. I mean, let's go into your idea for your project, your podcast that you wanted to name it Homegrown, but I think that name is taken.
Oh my God, I've so abandoned. See, I'm a big ideas guy.
Yeah, but I like this idea. This is where I got like sort of bits of like the theme today is like being younger and like things in your young life that impact you later in life. Like I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted to start that. If I had, I have a just list of projects that I've started and didn't complete, and everything takes me like 5 years to do. Yeah. Like I wanted to do comedy when I was 11.
Oh my God.
And I didn't start till I was like 26, almost 27. Like so.
I started at the same, like I started at like 27. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I remember you were already doing shows when I was like an open micer or something in Montreal.
I feel like we started at a very similar time, but I don't remember. Anyways, we'll get into that later. But like, let's go into like your idea for like Homegrown. What was that?
Yeah. Okay. I think, you're the product of everything that's like happened to you and every decision you made and how you've reacted to things in your life. So I think it's really interesting to find out like the way that people are now, the values that they hold, and the things that they like to do, where it came from, and like what was your friend group like in high school? Yeah. There's like so many things that happened to you in high school where you're really like trying to form an identity.
Yeah. Obviously, it's such formative years. It's like that's like an obvious statement, but like it really, really shapes you, and I think it's really interesting to dive into that. What do you think? Like you grew up where?
Okay, Boston, Massachusetts. Yes. Well, the South Shore of Massachusetts, not really Boston, like an hour from the city.
Yeah.
Tiny town, 6,000 people. It's like it used to be a fishing village back in the day.
Okay.
Then now it's like a commuter town for Boston, basically.
Okay.
But it's insanely beautiful, and I can't believe I grew up there. It's on like postcards and shit. It was in a few movies. It's
amazing.
Like it's very copacetic. Like there's a lot of woods. So then growing up, like you can smoke pot in the woods. You can have a few beers in the woods. Like the woods were everything.
Yeah. I mean, I could relate. We did that too. Like there would be like fields or like where we'd have like a bonfire and like chill
fire
out
in the woods.
Yeah. Like again, like I mean, like I was from a small town too. And even smaller than yours. But yeah, it was just like basically like you found a space to like just like hang out, and those were like really great. So that's cool. Like, how do you think your teenage years impact you?
I had, excuse me, clear my throat.
It's okay.
So before the teenage years, like middle school, elementary school, I felt like I was like never fitting in, had a horrific time. I remember like trying to be funny just because it deflected like somebody making fun of me a little bit, like things like that. And I have these like horrific memories of a moment where like everybody was laughing at me. And I think one that really shines out is I was talking to this girl, Gabriella, was crushing hard at the time. I'm in like 4th grade.
That's a nice name.
It's a nice name.
It's a good name.
Beautiful name.
Yeah.
Well, Will Linner comes up, tries to pants me.
Will.
Yeah.
Will.
I don't know where this kid is, but hope nowhere good. No, but he comes up behind me, tries to pants me, but he double pantses me, right? So the pants and boxers go down. It's like March. My little child penis is just flapping in the wind. And there's about like 6 women. Women's a strong word for that age.
Girls.
And Gabriella, all immediately like hands over mouth, just like laughing at me. And I was like, this is not a great day for me.
That's a bad day.
Yeah.
That's a definite bad day.
So I feel like I have a string of memories that were like roughly like that. It is a small town. So there's like 48 kids in the cohort of kids that I was going to school with. So like, it's hard to move to a new circle and like reinvent yourself.
Yes, yeah, but I mean, you have you have multiple times.
So I think high school was actually really good for me.
Yeah.
And then now I think right now I'm at a very good happy point in my life. The 20s were a real mixed bag where I really kind of screwed a lot of things up multiple times. But in high school, I was very fortunate where at a certain point my parents were like, all right, you're falling in with like some weird kids here in the hometown. So they sent me to a school in Boston.
Okay.
And I thought that sucked. It was like a Catholic school too. I was like, this is lame, it was stupid. I was like rebelling against all that. But I met so many people that I really liked from there. And this one kid was from this town, Marshfield, which was like 2 towns over from where I lived.
Okay.
So then all of a sudden, like we started combining all the local friends we knew that we actually liked.
Okay.
And in high school, I had like a really solid crew of like 30 people who they're still my closest friends to this day.
That's amazing.
Like I was very fortunate for that. And I could just be like my goofy ass self. I had a very loud, probably annoying personality. I was always doing dumb things that were like I had like neon hats and like why was I wearing knee-high Argyle socks? Like just to get looks from people in public.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was
Why wouldn't you?
I just wanted to be loud because I thought it was like funny to like have people be like, "What the hell's going on?" Like freaking out the old people, man. And then like we all played in bands, so there were like 3 bands in that friend group at the time. We'd have like house shows and just play music in somebody's basement, like you said, a parent with lax oversight.
Yeah.
And smoke a lot of weed and play music, and that was what I did for 4 years, and they were like really fun years looking back. Like I wish everybody had that sense of community at that age.
Yeah.
Because you know that you have people that are gonna support you.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. There's gonna be people to come to your band show if that's what you're trying to do. And then now, like everything in my life, I think especially my friend Mike, he doesn't even know he's giving advice, but I'll like talk to him and he'll just say something off the cuff and I'm like, wow, that's the most meaningful thing I've ever heard. And it's only because he knows me so well. It's only because we've been best friends since like 14 or whatever. And so I was really fortunate to have that in high school. And then I struggled really hard because all that went away when I left.
Okay.
And I had a really bad time trying to rebuild some version of that. And then it turns out just crippling mental health for a few years.
Yeah.
And then you're like self-medicating and then that's no good. So the amount of bridges I burned in my 20s coming out of just like a really great high school era is insane.
Yeah, that transition from high school to university is really, really hard. One, like, especially if you're from a small town and you like go to like a bigger city and you lose your friend group. I think it's definitely like having, like, I'm so happy to hear that you had such a close knit, like, bunch of friends and like that support system there. I definitely think I did. It was definitely a lot smaller.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It was very weird when leaving high school where you sort of like, oh, but things are sort of be the same, but I'm going to be in a different place. But then like, it's really hard to make friends. Like when you're going to like a new school, when you're going and you're in a new city, everything is new. I mean, I could relate. I definitely had like mental health problems just like hit me right at that time too. So it's like this, but like now I look back on it and I'm like, oh, that like I grew so much from that experience for sure.
Yeah. As long as you find some way to be positive about getting through it and get, if you need help, getting the help you need, or just finding the right way to live your life that's not like damaging to you, then you come out. And I don't want to give the impression that I was like cool in high school. Like we just had a lot of like, it was like all the band kids hanging out, this was not a cool crowd. There were no like football players in this group.
Were the cool people in your school, who were they in general?
I don't know. There were some people that we'd like hang out with, but like I did not. It was a very maybe classic feeling of we had a big sports team in the high school I went to, so there was like the football players were like, oh, big fucking deal or whatever, the hockey kids. My dad made me try out for lacrosse. I just got annihilated in the tryouts. They cut me day one, and it was a tough look.
Aww.
I just remember they were making me do push-ups, and I was struggling to get like 10 through, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this.
I was never a sports person my entire life, and I mean, in my teenage years, like I was trying to like find who I was. Obviously, everyone does, and like, I would, try to like be friends or like, talk to the popular people, be like, am I into sports like you, or am I into like this like you? And I'm just like, I'm not. Like, I was just like part of the crowd that just like, I don't know. We just drank and smoked weed.
Yeah.
Like,
we smoked weed for sure. The drinking, at least in America, I know meeting all these Canadians when I moved up here, everyone was like, oh, we've been drinking for like 4 years. I was like, I just started drinking a month ago. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it went very poorly, if I'm being honest. It's like, you should learn how to do that at like 15.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, did your friends group have fake IDs or anything? Was there some like...
I got one when I was 19 because once I had moved to Canada, and then I took a bus to Toronto, got a fake ID. So I showed up for like that summer back in Boston. And I was like, I'd put a pea coat and glasses on because I've prescribed glasses but never wear them, just to make myself look more adult. right? And I'd like shave properly, and I'd go into the gas station, have this like Alberta ID, and I'd be like, "Oh, excuse me, sir," like not even an Alberta accent. I'm like kind of British almost, like
They're not British at all. I don't even. They do have this like tanginess.
No,
to their,
I know, but they don't know that in Boston.
Yeah,
I'm just like, what is my impersonation of an adult?
Yes.
You know, who's a responsible person? A like polite sort of British guy with glasses on. That's what I thought, and it worked. Almost every time.
Wow.
And when it didn't work, they still gave me the ID back. They didn't like doubt it enough to take it.
like no.
Yeah. So
it is absurd to me that it's 21, the legal age. Like it.
Yeah.
Growing up here, like 18, and then we started drinking earlier with like fake IDs. The idea that I was 15 with a fake ID and people gave me booze is weird.
Insane. Yeah.
It is weird. Like I look back at pictures, like I'm just like, obviously I wasn't fucking 18. Like what kind of, but like I guess like people at like dépanneurs, like they do not give a shit.
They don't
They're
care
like,
that much. They just want their cash.
I don't care.
As
But
long as they
I
don't
also,
get caught.
I also worked at a dépanneur a couple of times, and like apparently there's these secret shoppers that the government like warns these like oh well, if you sell booze you could get a fine if it's a secret shopper. I don't think those exist. I don't know.
I've heard of the police doing stings with like a young looking cop, like even in the U.S. Like, will you sell alcohol to someone under 21? You know, so the similar thing, I think.
Yeah,
but never seen it in action. Only heard rumors. So.
It's all lies. It's all lies.
But yeah, I think like I feel like it'd be good to repeal some of that.
Yeah.
Like historically, there was a point in the 80s where everyone was just drinking and driving, and highway deaths were insane.
Yeah.
That the 21, like that's where it came from. The 21 age was like a response to politicians having all this pressure because they're like, we have like scores of dead 18-year-olds.
Oh,
like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So
I'm not mad about the like the 21 thing. If anything, like drinking alcohol and smoking weed is maybe it should be 21 here.
Maybe there's like, I think there's pros and cons to it for sure. Like I kind of glad that like I got it out of my system earlier.
I didn't have the time where I was all pent up. I'm like, I'm ready to drink. When I was like 17, I would have like a beer or two.
Yeah.
But I was never like tempted to party, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think it was a slow drip, and I kind of like realized how I felt with it.
Yeah.
So I was never pressured to do it, or I didn't have like, you know, like rum Springer, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I didn't go crazy.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was like, I had this feeling of like loss. You have to, because you're trying to reinvent yourself. And I'd just come from like such a good community who like all had my back. And then I was, again, then I felt like I was in middle school again in college, where I'm like, oh, I'm struggling to like relate to people and to fit in. And then drinking is like, oh, well now I'm like, I'm with you guys. We're having some beers and stuff.
It really
but then
like
that became
softens
a crutch.
that whole experience for sure.
And I didn't realize that I had just like general anxiety to a degree that was like affecting my life. I just thought like all people just lived like that somehow.
When you're in when you were a kid, when you were a teenager, did you have that narrative like about mental health, like about depression, anxiety, all of that?
Well, okay, because now everyone's like, yeah, get the help you need. Like it's not, you got to. And of course,
I mean, we're similar ages. Like there was not really any talk about that.
I think by the time I was in high school, we were at the point where we're like, no, it's good that you go to get mental health. Yeah. But me, I can figure it out. I remember thinking, like, I remember waking up one day and I was like so hungover, and I just hated, because I had gotten to this bad rhythm of like, this social anxiety was killing me. Yeah. So I would drink to cover that up. And I was at a house party once, and they were going around in a circle. Like, I can't remember, doing some like icebreaker bullshit or whatever. Yeah, yeah. And I was so nervous about my turn and how it would be perceived. And I was holding a beer, but it was the first beer, and I was still sober. And I remember like sneakily kind of like downing it, because I knew it would slow the anxiety. But I also knew it was a bad move. I knew it was a problem. And in my head, I was like, well, we'll just have to deal with that later. I'm gonna pick your battles here, okay? We'll get through tonight, and then we'll deal with that later.
Oh my gosh.
But there was like 5 years where I was like, I just couldn't figure out who I was, how to fit in, and like was just overcoming my anxiety and like depressive mindset with substances. And that was like horrific. Oh, that's the worst way to do it.
Oh my gosh. Because I mean, alcohol obviously is a depressant, and then the next day you're even more anxious because there's like hangover anxiety.
You get in that
it's
cycle.
like this huge cycle, so you want to drink more. But then like you want to fit in, so you want to like, okay, I need to be present in front of these people so they get to know me. But then they're not really getting to know me because when I'm drunk and then I'm an anxious ball of anxiety. So it's this weird cycle. Do you still feel like you get into that rhythm a little bit, or is it, how do you deal with it?
A little bit, and I just have to remind myself that like, no, this is just who I am, and if they don't like it, then fuck them.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter. You know, like I'm too old to worry so much about everybody.
Yeah.
But you still feel it. I don't know. I think that what I tried to do with it always is like, okay, because I had so many years, like I started playing drums when I was 9 years old. And so in high school, I was in all these bands and stuff. And so in college, I was like, I just need to join a band. If I can join a band, then I don't even have, it doesn't matter how I talk to people at a house party. They'll be like, oh, I saw that guy play drums and he was good at that. And then that, to me, in my head, I was like, that'll be some type of like social credit where
you have like something to talk to the person about. You have like, it's like having like a list of like questions or like conversation starters in your mind. Like you have that common interest, you have that.
Because I felt like if you didn't have that, you were just some like awkward guy at a party who like wasn't making eye contact and was like weird. But if you had like a talent, people would be like, oh, he's kind of like a artist type. You can I'm not saying this is correct at all. I'm saying this was my mindset at 21.
I mean, I definitely felt like all of the, I didn't like I said, I didn't have like the language for like the anxiety I was experiencing as a teen and like in my early 20s, like in university, like where like I'm having this like this social anxiety and I didn't have that language and I don't know why I'm not, you know, going to a bar or going to like a house party and it's like easy. Like I just feel this like pent up whatever. And like, I mean, I've definitely used booze to help, but like it was just me just like facing that and just feeling uncomfortable. And like it was only like when I started therapy in my like when I was like 19, where like
I wish I did that at 19.
Oh God, like I mean, I
Oh my God, that would have been crazy.
It would have been it. I 10 on 10 recommend.
I would have a job. You know?
I'd be so much further in my goals on this planet. I started therapy last year. That's how fucking late.
That's good though.
Shout out to Chad.
Shout out to
His
Robin.
name's Chad. Yeah, it's horrific.
That's so funny.
I wanted to break up with him just because of that. I was like, Chad can't
is
help me.
You don't think therapist when you hear the name Chad.
His name is Chaim. But he was like, I want to be more relatable, so I've taken the name Chad. And I was like, dude, you need therapy. What the hell is going on?
Sounds like a motivational speaker, not a therapist.
But
okay, so you started therapy last year.
I'm actually in between therapists right now. It was not
so
working
Chad
out with
is
Chad.
not.
Yeah,
okay.
but for a while, he got me through like through a period of time.
Yeah. Okay. So you like how's it been being in therapy? How do you feel like the difference?
Oh my God. I mean,
if you don't mind me asking.
No, please. There were some things I just couldn't do on my own. And there were a lot of things that I needed someone to go like, hey, that wasn't your fault. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And just like telling someone these things and like thoughts that I wouldn't share with any of my friends or anything because I don't want to be like too much or like overburdened or whatever.
Yeah.
And saying that to someone and they go, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, that's what I thought.
Right. Yeah.
So they like validated all these things where
Absolutely.
I'm like, so I'd come to him, you know, there was like some situation and that went really sideways with a person, and I'd be like, here's what happened. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I really fucked this up. And he'd be like, no, it sounds like you just met an asshole.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, okay. So I don't have to like harbor all this stuff internally. Like that person was just a jerk. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. And then I was dealing with, we can talk about later in the hardest moment or whatever stuff. I know that's coming. But just all this stuff that was like out of my control. And I am a control freak. And that is where the anxiety comes from.
Yes.
So I just hit this moment where like too many things were out of my control. And I was just kind of like feeling like I was spiraling. And that's when I was like, all right.
Okay.
Let's call in the backup team. Like, it's not
Well, good for you.
yeah,
For
so-
like, I mean, a lot of people don't do that. They just like, suppress it.
I tried to at 23 or something, or 22 when I was up
Okay.
here, and I had just finished being a student, and got my new work permit to stay in the country, and was in a bad spot as well, and didn't
Okay.
want to go back home. Like, and at this point, all my friends are scattered across the globe, so like I didn't know where to head next.
Yeah.
And I remember calling a bunch of therapists in Montreal, being like, okay, I need something.
It's very hard to find a therapist. In
They all
Montreal.
called me back and were like, we're full, we don't have anything. Like, unless you're suicidal, then like we got nothing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not suicidal, but I'm having a shitty time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so heartbreaking.
So
that
yeah.
sucks.
So then I just kept raw dogging it for another like 5 years.
Yes.
Just
yes.
like-
yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think therapists are amazing. I've been with my therapist. I mean, my first therapist was when I was 19. Was with her for 4 or 5 years, and then the therapist I have now, shout out Robin, I've had for 6 years, and I cannot recommend therapy more. Like it's just like you said, having this person that just like validates your thoughts or just like gives you a different perspective and just kind of like rewires like, okay, this is a negative thought pattern. This is, or like, the only reason why like I've been able to like actually like pursue things that I love now is because of therapy. Because like for years I was just like, oh, you just need to grind. You need to like, you can, being unhappy is fine. Like, you're like, as long as you're making money, like, it's just like, no, you're allowed to enjoy your life. Yeah. So it's,
I asked my dad for advice one time.
oh,
and,
parents are the worst.
He gave me maybe the most, and now the older I get, the more it makes sense to me.
Okay.
But he gave me advice that a 40-year-old should have gotten or something. Especially because if you think back of all these people, he always says like, oh, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Like all these people who came before us, who got us here. Like my dad immigrated from Ireland as a kid.
Okay.
Stuff like that. So there's this whole, Boston Irish. There's this whole like narrative there of people who just suffered horrendously for years. And if you look at the family history, it's all like heart attack at 45, like horrific alcohol abuse. Like it's just a nightmare. And then my dad gets the shot at like coming over as a kid to like a new land and like he's not a citizen, but he's gonna go to school, he's gonna get his green card, whatever, and then like have all these chances at life and then have a family and stuff. And so the advice he gave to me when I was like struggling with stuff was he's like, at a certain point, like it work's hard and life's really hard, but like you come home, you look out your front door, you have a beer, and you're doing it all for your family. And I was like, I'm 23. I don't have a family. Who am I doing this for?
I can't even process that advice now.
It's still tough for me now.
I kind of get the sentiment. It's just like, it's for the greater good. You're working hard for,
I get it now, because
your family, but you should also work. You should be happy. You should work. How you take care of the people around you is taking care of yourself first, for sure. But like my parents, like saying it's like generational. Like that's the same thing. Like my parents are like, well, we have like their life was just taking care of their family. And like making sure that like everyone was comfortable and happy, what they perceived as happy.
Right.
And like as long as like there was food on the table and roof over the head, that classic thing. Then like they're okay. Like then they're good. Like that's what life is. It's just, but that's not. There's so much.
No, because now we're such a different generation where we had enough good things from our parents' generation.
Yeah, for sure.
And like the economy and world was like relatively good and peaceful, at least if you're from like North America and Europe. Like this does not apply to every country.
No,
at all.
Yes, and then there's exceptions too.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Relatively, we grew up in a time of relative prosperity in this part of the world. Where like I think about like even my dad growing up in the first few years in a Europe that had been ravaged by war and was still rebuilding.
Right.
So you're like, well, we can't live here. There's nothing here. So of course you leave. So growing up in America in the 90s and early 2000s, it's like, nah, dude, we have emo music and
Oh my
like there's this
gosh.
new startup Netflix that's like mailing me DVDs. Like I have everything I need. This is good.
This is great.
So you had it's like we had time where our parents didn't really get this. We had time to be like, no, I'm gonna work on me. You know,
Yeah,
I'm like do
it's
stuff for
true.
me.
It's true.
With them, they had to like do things so that they could send money back to their family. So like grandma,
Okay.
has whatever
Okay.
going on. So
Okay.
I didn't have any of that. My parents are like, don't worry about us. You just have a fun life. And how like amazing is that? Everybody should have that.
Everyone should.
That
I
should
love
be
that.
what we work for as a society. To
Yeah.
give everybody like some loving parents, like no
Yeah.
want for hunger, and then go out. And then you can fuck your own life up from there.
Yeah.
Then it's your fault. It's not, not to say everybody gets trauma from their parents in different ways and
yes.
whatever. I'm not trying to, again,
sure.
blanket statements require a few disclaimers. But
Yes. Are your parents like retired now, or are they?
my dad still like works, but years ago he started a business with his buddy. So he's like 70 something now. He's going to be
Okay.
pissed that I'm even saying things out. He's not watching the podcast. I hate to break it to you.
Why not, Mr. Hernon? Please watch.
Yeah, Marty.
If he's watching it, he's like standing in the living room, like watching it. His hands behind his back.
No, he's a really. It took me a while to realize that he was a chill guy. I thought my parents were like so evil growing up. No, not evil. I knew
Really?
that compared to my friends' parents, they were like rational and in hindsight like very correct about
Yeah.
things. But at the time, I just had like the rebellion in me.
Yes.
I was like, we need to play in
Yes.
punk bands and be like, fuck my parents. Like that's all I had.
Oh,
But,
I
like,
was angsty too. I was angry with my parents. I mean, looking back, I think rightfully so. Like they're just not they're not good with emotions, and I'm
Yeah.
a very emotional person. But I love them. But yes. They were very different from other parents as well. Yeah. Yeah. So go on. So like
no.
your dad is still working. Like I was
Yeah.
just gonna ask, like, is he finding himself now that he's older and having
he's
that
known
independent?
himself for decades. That
Okay.
guy has always been.
Okay.
I mean, the Hernon side of my family, they just march to the beat of their own drum. They do their own thing. Like he's
great.
been who he's been
Okay.
forever. He's never going to be on time for anything, but that's fine. And the reason he's late,
accepted that. Yeah.
and the reason he's late, it's not because he's being selfish. I've noticed that he goes through the world and he'll just have conversations with every person. He's just too friendly.
So funny.
He has to like talk to the person at the bagel place for like 5 minutes and 10 minutes and ask about her family and stuff and just like all these. And I'd be pissed off as a kid. I'd be like, Dad, come on, we're gonna be late. And he's like, I'm talking with
As someone
Annette."
that's like
Yeah.
like anxious and like
Yeah.
you and like
He's got
you're
none of
like
that.
you're very like you like control. Like I'm sure like
Yeah.
that's why you like you're like you were like angsty.
I get the anxiety from my mother for sure.
Okay.
She's very like type A, and she's living her life now. I think recently I was talking to her, and she's like, "It's nice being this age because it's no longer about worrying about my children. I'm just gonna worry about me now."
Yeah.
And I was
Okay.
like, "Do that." Like,
Absolutely.
know?
So she finding herself doing new hobbies.
I mean, they so my mom's always tried new hobbies. Like I started
Okay.
surfing when I was a kid. She got into surfing for a while. Like that was
really?
kind of cool.
That's cool.
She doesn't do so much of that anymore. And it's like cold surfing in Boston. It's frigid.
You need
My dad
you
did
need-
that.
Yeah, it's
Your dad surfed?
Yeah, he got into surfing like in his like late 50s.
yeah. You can do it as an.
Does he
it's
do
like,
it on like the St. Lawrence River, like in LaSalle?
We live
yeah.
a block away from those.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he doesn't go often. I think he's more into paddleboarding now.
Okay.
Yeah, he's always been like interested in that.
Oh,
So my
that's
parents will do
interesting.
stuff like that. Like they bought this little boat years ago, and this boat has been a nightmare. It hasn't worked since day one. It's not. We live in a town where there are some people who have like boat money,
boat
and they
money.
like ride their little huge,
Yeah.
not little. They ride their
I want to have boat money
dumb
one
boats
day.
around. And I'm just like, I hate them so much. We always had this like, we had a boat still. It was a boat. It
Yeah.
was the shittiest boat. It would always break down. I remember so many times you'd go out and get excited, and then like
Yeah.
you wouldn't get it
It
started.
wouldn't crank. Yeah.
It'd be like having a bad car where you're like, please, 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 please. And you're like trying to, you're like, shit, we're not going out. But it's like, my town, there's a lobster industry there.
Yeah.
So
Ooh.
my dad got he got these lobster traps when I was a kid. And just as a hobby, he would go out and we'd like set lobster traps, like go fishing, stuff like that. So that
Yeah.
was really, he has that as a hobby, Now they just golf together. That's their, it's a classic old people stuff. They're trying to leave Boston and just move to Florida. So
Oh yeah,
that's the trajectory.
What I loved about growing up with my parents is that they always found new hobbies or things that they like to do. Like my mom has had 3 different careers in her life. And it just showed me that like you can reinvent yourself at any point and inquire different hobbies at any point, which is really cool. I think like some parents don't really like present that to their kids, or like, we're like, I mean, I know a lot of people like our age that like, oh, like you have to figure out what you want to do like early in life and then like do that for the rest of your life.
They were the people who, I mean, they wanted me to get a actual job, but they were the people who were like telling me, hey, your 20s are for trying a bunch of stuff. So even at moments in my life where I was stuck in a rut, they were like, hey, just go. So again, this is something where, and we can talk about this in the end section too, is like so many, they taught this us at Catholic school. It's the only takeaway I have that was positive from Catholic school. But you get your gifts and givens, these things that you're born into that you don't get to choose. And some of them are really good and some of them are horrific, you know, and you don't get to choose. You just get those things. So you have to be mindful that other people, they don't get the same things you got. And they have it way better, they have it way worse, but it doesn't matter. You have these things, you have to deal with that. And be a good person about it. Don't be a dick about it. You know? So like if you have something horrific, know that it's not your fault. And know that these other people who got stuff like, okay, the system is unfair. We'll try to fix the system, but in the meantime, like you got to do what you got to do. So I'm so grateful to have parents who are like loving and not abusive, you know?
Amazing.
Who like told me, they gave me every opportunity to fulfill whatever passions I had. I wanted to play the drums in a house as a parent. Don't have your kid play the drums. Oh my God, I'd be in the basement playing full volume.
Be you.
And they would just be like putting earplugs in upstairs, being like, "Oh, he's finding himself." Like, would I do that for a child? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. You probably would.
Yeah,
you probably would.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, but that's so great.
It's like stuff like that. Like, you know, they were good. They were always like making sacrifices, and then I was the one screwing all these opportunities up. It's all on my shoulders.
You were finding yourself. You were exploring.
But so they were pretty solid. I got no complaints on that. I mean, at one point they were even trying to, like, my friend had a mom who was a little tough on him, to put it lightly, and like couldn't deal with like his ADHD and stuff like that. And there was a summer where like he just lived at my house. And we did that for like 2 summers, I think. And my mom was like, "Yeah, you just this is your home too. Just come over."
Aww,
so like they're like good people. They're real good people.
I love that. That's so nice. Oh, that's so cool.
I hope to be as good. In general.
You strive to be good, everyone. Strive to be good.
That's all you want from life. Don't be a dick. Don't kill anybody, and like make it through this.
I want to switch gears a little bit.
Please do.
I want to talk about comedy a bit.
Yes.
So you're a comedian. How long have you been a comedian?
I guess I have trouble calculating. I think I started at 26, but almost 27.
Okay.
I remember being so upset at the time because, Harrison, I met him, Harrison Weinreb in the Montreal scene. And he had started at like an outlandishly young age. And I just remember thinking by the time I got into comedy, I had already given up on my dream of being a musician. But that was the first dream. And I had been in a bunch of bands and like gone on tour and like we broke even once. And that was the biggest thing.
That's amazing.
I was like, we're going to make it. This is unreal. And then that band slowly fell apart and I had always wanted to do comedy. I remember even when I was like 12 years old, I was in this band with my friend Mark and we were riding bikes and I was like, what would you want to do if we weren't trying to be musicians? Because at that age we were like, we're going to make it. We're going to be rock stars. And he was like, nothing. I just want to be a musician. And I go, oh, I'd be a comedian.
Yeah.
And he goes, I remember saying that back then, but then I never tried it. And then I was really into music and you have to really choose what hobbies to put time into.
Yes.
But then eventually, like I just started, I think I went up at like the Comedy Nest or something.
Okay.
And I just went for it. And I mean, at that point, I had a few friends who were like really good friends. They all came out. So gave me a huge false positive. For the first time I went up, I just told like, I can't remember the story I told, but I just told a story for like 5 minutes. And I was like, I just crushed, dude.
I'm the best. I'm the next whatever.
I was like, I'm a natural. This is natural talent right here.
I mean, I think there's probably some truth to that, for sure.
I think that for a long time, I had been flirting with the idea of comedy and the way it was expressing itself was at parties. I would always find myself like telling a story. And a few times you get that feeling where like you realize everyone's listening to your story and you're like, oh, this feels kind of nice,
And for someone that came from having severe social anxiety to that's like huge.
So,
That's
then
great.
that's addictive. And then that's a
Yes.
problem.
Yes.
Because then at every party you go to, you're like, well, I want to hold court again. Like, how can I make myself the center of this? And then that's like the ego. That's gross. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's problematic in its own way.
Yes.
Like, comedy is an acceptable outlet for that type of mentality. You can't just be that person all the time. And some people are. You hear stories of like someone just told me this. Some guy who lived in New York in the 70s. He said he used to sell cocaine to Robin Williams. He was a crazy guy. But he said Robin Williams was a nightmare because he was always on. They'd be at a party and he'd just have to be the center of everything.
I mean, we know, like, there's definitely those people that I've known, and like it's exhausting.
You don't want to be that person.
You don't want to be that
really
person.
don't.
No, because everyone is exhausted by you. Although maybe you find like your group that are like, feeding off of that, and like they like that.
If you're as talented as Robin Williams, then it'll work. But if you're not, you're just really annoying.
Why are you hating the player's grind? He was out there, at parties grinding all the time.
He never
That's
stopped.
how he got good. He never stopped.
It's true. It's true. That's his grind. He's just on 20. It's like going up every night, like but he's just doing it with his friends and family. But that's exhausting. Like, take a break. I would like to see that person, like, when he's at home at night. I wonder if he's actually like dead. He must expend all of his energy.
All of it. It's
like,
gotta be insane.
You ever see like a dog when a dog like runs, in their sleep, and they're having like the running dream. It's like Robin Williams. It's like.
That's so funny.
So yeah, I had started doing it at the Nest, and then the Nest became. There's so much anxiety involved in all this with me, and I had not had a therapist during this whole time. Should have. So. I'd be up at the Nest, and then I got kind of comfortable showing up at the Nest. Like, I became familiar to the people there, so it was like, even though it was still nerve-wracking, and I'd be like pacing behind, like waiting for my turn, it was like you understood the rhythm.
Yes.
So then I had to make the next step, and I remember I think I went to McLean's.
Yes.
And went to McLean's, got up there. This is probably after like 2 decent sets at the Nest. Again, because my friends just came out, so it felt like it went well.
Yeah.
So I went up, tried to do the same thing at McLean's.
And
oh my God, had just the worst bomb ever. But
McLean's is back running again.
Yeah.
Please go. But I had a great time the other week there. Like,
I pumped in the other night.
I did. I was fun. I don't know. Maybe it's been.
I'm at a point now where I can have fun bombing. I didn't have that for the longest time.
Same.
So like I remember I went up there, I bombed so bad, and I think Vance Michelle was hosting. And so as I was walking out, he starts giving me this like pep talk, which was so kind of him, to be honest, because he doesn't know me. I'm like this new guy that's just shown up.
Yeah.
And he gave me this pep talk that was like, hey man, you just gotta stay in the water. As long as you just keep staying in the water, eventually there'll be a wave.
That's good
And
advice.
I've thought about that every day in comedy since then.
Yeah.
I can't believe Vance Michelle and Harrison are the 2 people that have given me good advice. There's plenty of people that have given me bad advice.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just good advice.
Shout out to Vance Michelle. Shout out to Harrison.
Yeah.
I love them too.
Harrison was the one, he told me people will tell you what they need to be true. And I like that as a corollary to stay in the water, because it's kind of like, the advice that I give to other people, I'm like, that's kind of the advice that I realize I need to be true for how I think about the world. That has to be true. They might find another way through life that doesn't apply to, and that's fine. It's just that advice, I kind of need that. So take everything with a grain of salt, but also stay in the water. Keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're in New York City.
Yes.
You're grinding there.
Yeah,
you're doing shows there. It sucks. What's the difference between the Montreal and New York City?
Montreal is such a nice community. It's nice. You do get to know everybody because it is a smaller scene, for the English comedy scene. And I really like that, the familiarity of going in. Because for me, with all this anxiety, like I need to get comfortable in a room before I can start to feel free there.
For sure.
And, to know, okay, I am, good at this on some level. So now that I've, in my head, been like, oh, these other people, they've seen me do well enough that I'm comfortable to bomb now. Cool, because if you're comfortable enough to bomb, then you're free. Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you're worried about bombing, you're trapped inside this like ego thing of like, I need to look good here, and that sucks, and that's gonna limit you. But if you can know, it doesn't matter if I do, well or not, as long as I'm challenging myself, maybe trying some new stuff out, maybe just having fun up there, then you're going to have a good time for you. And then that's the difference.
Yeah.
So in Montreal, it was easier to get to that because it is like a nice community. People are very supportive.
Yeah.
If you bomb at Grumpy's, nobody cares. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then going to New York, it's like, I think before the pandemic, I had been going down for like a weekend or two, maybe like a week. And I had started getting a few connections. And then so I was thinking, oh, I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to have these existing connections. I'm going to slide into the scene.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened and all those people moved back to like Ohio and like San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, and I was still like, fuck it, I need to make a move in my life. So I still moved to New York, but I did it with no connections. So it is really like starting over. Your Montreal credit does not transfer to New York at all.
No.
And then instead of like 30 English comics or whatever there are currently, there's like 2,000 comics. And they're spread among like 12 different micro scenes everywhere. And the like lower Manhattan guys hate the Brooklyn guys. And they think they're too soft and too woke
like,
and don't have like,
Okay.
they think the Brooklyn people like don't have punchlines and shit. And they're all like clapter.
Oh, wow.
And then the Brooklyn people think that the Manhattan people are like just doing hate speech every night. It's like,
That's so funny.
to a degree though, like, so I try to go in all the worlds. I try to like, you got to make everybody laugh, right? So challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not like an offensive comedian by any stretch. So it's easy to be like, oh, I can make people laugh in Brooklyn. And then, and it is funny though, because when you do go to Manhattan, you're like, oh, I am hearing a bit more slurs out here.
They're a bit more loose here.
And like the Brooklyn mics a lot of times will be like, if you even mention trans people in a negative light, you're you're fucking banned, you know? And it's like, well, you don't want to be running a mic. You don't want to be doing that. It's a different approach. The Brooklyn people are like, we will ban you if you bring that up. The Manhattan people are like, well, you're just going to have a bad time. Because if you're like trashing trans people, you're probably going to bomb hard. You know? So it's like...
If you don't slander them, we're banning you.
the exact opposite. And then like Queens is... I don't know. Queens just has good writers. That's what everybody says, I guess.
Do you have like a favorite, like, I
have like different days of the
room
week.
Okay.
Well, right now, shout out to Sonia running Black Cat on the Lower East Side.
Okay.
That's a solid spot. I mean, it is just a true open mic. Occasionally, there's people. It's in a cafe, like a basement cafe.
I love a good cafe with a
So apparently, there's like student, like NYU kids working there, and then all of a sudden, like comedy's just happening to them. And
it's like most shows that we go to.
It's often not great, but it's but the room's really fun, and everyone. It's a room where people actually listen to you. There's so many mics where the comics are just waiting for their turn; they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So you just gotta find, if you're open micing, you have to find rooms that listen to you. And then also there's a great show. I just got introduced, like friend of a friend. There's a great Friday show in Brooklyn called Live from Outer Space. I'm friends with a few people that run that, and it's a great hang. They have a great show, and then that's like, so it's like the two worlds where they have like real professional comics on that show, like people who are on Netflix and shit, and then you're like open mic and stuff. I'm not saying I'm really a part of that, but that's like the aspiration. I'm like, I'm a good hang there. I've been up once at that show, and then I'm mostly an open micer in New York right now, almost entirely, because I'm still like, it's a freaking networking game. I didn't know. I thought that like
for sure. It's a little bit like that here too. I hate the word networking, but like you know,
it is what it is.
You gotta like make friends with people. And it's annoying. But yes.
Those are some of my favorite spots though.
Especially if it's like a big scene like New York, like it takes time.
Yeah.
And especially like we've been, not been able to do it consistently or because of the pandemic or like things stopped.
Yeah.
Then you're still new at it, like in that scene.
Yeah.
But are you enjoying your time there?
I'm really enjoying it. I mean, everyone, first of all, is lovely that I've met in comedy there. Like the nicest people. And it's good. There's always, there's so many mics happening all the time that you can always try new material out.
Amazing.
And I've just gotten to the point where I can get a little bit booked there. Like I'm really not successful by many metrics at all. Yeah, okay.
You will be. You will.
Really, I've just because I've had so much life stuff in the past, year or two, not to mention COVID, where so I've only really had maybe the last 6 months of just every day going out and just focusing on that. So I had to like rebuild everything from the ground up, and now I'm at a point where like I'm having fun again, and it's feeling real good.
Good.
But
amazing.
But yeah. Someday, eventually. But it's like, it's nice. And now it's at the point where if I get booked on a show, it's so meaningful to me.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's still meaningful to me when I get booked for a show, and I never want that to go away. I never want to be like that. It's like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Like, no. Like if a producer or comedian reaches out to me and is like, hey, I want you, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, I never want that to go away because it means so much.
And I'm trying not to do any, there's some scummy clubs that'll have like a bringer show pipeline. They'll like promise you, oh, you can get past the club if you just do these like 3 bringer shows. And they're like, I'm trying not to do any of that. It doesn't seem like it's actually promising. It's just a way to like make money off of comedians and their friends.
Yeah, very fair. Fair enough. Well, we do have to wrap up.
Okay.
Yes. But we always end the podcast with 2 questions that I warned you about, and you said you had a crisis about.
I know.
But the first one is, what is the hardest thing you've ever been through?
Yeah, I was thinking about a few things with this. And again, everyone says that comedians, had horrific childhoods that they're like getting over. My childhood was okay. It wasn't that bad. Just the anxiety and mental illness that like plagued me in my 20s were like horrific at times. And I really screwed a lot of that up. So that was terrible. And then right as I like kind of figured that out in my 20s, I mean, I had a weird COVID. I got, stuck outside the country. And then right as I was coming back, I hadn't been home in like 2 years. And I got back, I saw like my best friend that I hadn't seen for like a long time. And it was kind of off. It was like a little bit weird. And then he killed himself the next day. And then that was like very quickly the worst week of my adult life.
Absolutely.
This is a guy who like I met the first day of high school and we got detention immediately because we wouldn't stop talking in class. So like I love this guy. And we have a good group of friends. So it was like, everyone was like, we just have to be together immediately.
Yes.
And then just sitting there and you're going through like all these good memories and it gets kind of quiet and then someone goes like, he was kind of an asshole too. And they were like sharing all these other. Remember that time I got super into atheism? It's like talking about all these things. And oh my God.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, that's such a hard loss for sure. A friend, especially that ends their life. Like,
as people, as you get older, everyone starts slowly dropping whatever. It just gets worse, right?
I mean, the older you get, the more people that have
and
died.
like when I was in high school, it was the heroin epidemic in the East Coast of the US. So it was like you would hear that like people would overdose and you graduate and like people are dying that you like lost touch with, but you're not like close to them. It's something that happens and it's sad, but you're not like close to them. And then when it happens to someone that's like they're your best friend, they were the person you would text right when you would show up in town, the person that you would imagine what the future of your life would be like together, like getting to grow old as friends. You get robbed of this like very deep thing. And I remember even so that happened and I was already like, oh, like maybe I'm gonna move to New York, but like I'm not really sure like when or how. And that happened. I remember like sitting there the next day, like crying in my car and just like feeling really sad. And I was like, I'm just going to move to New York.
Yeah,
and
just
so
do it. Life's too short.
It was such a depressing, I mean, it's still one of those things where I'm like, I'll never be over it.
Yeah, no.
You, at a certain point, you go, well, it has happened.
Yeah, that has happened. You adapt with having those feelings.
Yes.
And mourning this person.
Grief is a motherfucker.
Grief is a motherfucker, for sure, for sure. It's really hard. But I mean, I'm glad you had those close friends to help you and probably still help you get through it. I'm so sorry for your loss.
No, I mean like I'm at the point now I'm like it's happened. You can't change any of that.
Absolutely.
You just got to keep. And he was a person where if I could make him laugh, I knew it was really good.
Oh, God.
You know, one of those people. And he had such a great laugh too. So I still think of all these bits that I want to run by him. It's like, you just feel the loss and it really sucks. So I don't know. That happened like a year and a half ago or something. So I think in my mind, it's the most recent horrific thing that's happened. So
absolutely.
It's either like me getting deeply depressed, screwing up my own life, or like trying to process the grief of just like your best friend. So
Okay.
A lot of regret.
And so what is the thing that you're most passionate about in life?
I guess the answer should be comedy.
It doesn't have to. There's a lot of comedians that haven't said that.
I need to be building things all the time. I'm like, I see comedy in the vein of building. I have this like
it's
kind
a project.
It's like an art of build. And I think that art and engineering for me, there's like a closeness there. So like I'm always trying to optimize my life. I'm building things in my apartment. I'm like repainting stuff. I'm really good with tools and all those type of things. So I'm always building things and then I'm always making videos with friends. I'm always trying to figure out how to make a joke work. And it's almost like math sometimes. You just click it in the right place and try it out. So I made this shirt. I didn't want to get...
You made that shirt? Oh my God, zoom in on that. I don't know if you can. That's amazing.
But I just have all these things where I'll get a moment of being like, I need to learn how to do glass blowing. And I'll just go out and I'll be like, I need to make, and I'll make like one thing and be like, okay, we're good on that.
Oh my God, I love that.
The two constants that I continue coming back to in terms of making things are comedy and writing and music. And they're very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I need to be doing that. I have this dumb rock album I recorded after a breakup at 24, never did anything with, unearthed, re-recorded a bunch of it, and gave it to my friend to mix. So in 2023, I'm releasing a rock album.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I'm just
I will promote it on House of Stones.
Oh my God, that means so much. I think it's actually going to be really good. Like I can't believe
I want to be one of the first people to hear it. I have to.
Thank you. And then just like constantly, like comedy has given me such an outlet for, it sounds so douchey, but like artistic self-expression.
Yeah.
Where I can tell stories and make people laugh and like find jokes. And there's this beautiful thing that happens, a relationship between a comedian and an audience. And it's so fun.
Oh, it's so fun.
And the community is so nice. In all these things, like having community through art is so nice.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the passion is always being creative and making new things in all of these hobbies and passions that I have. And I never want to stop. Where I have that like
never stop.
Protestant work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just got to keep going and then I won't die. I think it's from that somehow.
I like that. I like how you said it. Like your passion is projects. You like to build
big
things.
project person.
Yeah, you like to build. Like you didn't say project. You like to build things.
Well, projects is a good way to say it. Though. I have a million projects, and that's why at the start I said, "Oh, I'm the ideas person."
Yeah.
I come up with
that.
so many ideas.
Yeah.
I pull through on very few of them. And what I found is I really need to work with other people. It's like comedy is the only thing that I've been able to do by myself. Kind of, it still takes other people, but like it's more on your own terms. Music, I have to turn this over to a producer and an engineer to get it over the line. Like all this other stuff.
The collaboration is really what makes things happen.
I need other people who are a little bit more type A to help bring things over the line, and then that's community. That's
for
everything.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank
You're
you
an amazing
very much.
guest.
Oh, this was a lot of fun.
I'm so happy that you made time while you're here in Montreal.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
If we have any New York City listeners, please go follow David Hernon.
We'll promote down there. We'll get some.
Yeah, go see David Hernon. Yes, thank you so much. You've been a lovely guest.
Thank you.
I have to shout out to the funders, the sponsors. I do have a shout out to a small business here in Montreal called La Pêche Nue, which is a beauty studio that specializes in waxing, hence the name, the Nude Peach. And one of their missions is that they accept all body types. So I really love that. So go get your vagina waxed if you want that.
Yeah.
Or honestly, other parts of your body.
Are there places that don't accept all body types?
I think it is a hurdle for some people to go to those studios.
Okay, for the person, I think
that
makes sense.
La Pêche Nue is trying to put that out there. It's just like all body size accepted. Just like come to us and we'll talk about your needs or your wants.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. They're in Verdun, and you can follow them at La Pêche Nue on Instagram. I want to thank Zach Kicks on the ones and twos, Pantelis Studio, this wonderful studio, all the listeners, and subscribe, follow on all of our platforms. We have a website, housestonepodcast.com, where you'll find all the links there. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to have anxiety about anything I said in the car.
No, you were amazing. No, don't.
This was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you.